Hey everyone, welcome to the cabin. My name's Alec Britz, and today we're going to be checking out the Manultec Orca Bay equalizer. I'm going to show you all of the unit's features, and most importantly, how it sounds. Big thanks as always to Studio Cat for making these videos a possibility. Let's jump right in. The front of the Manultec might look familiar in some ways with words like low and attenuation, but do not be fooled, this is a very different piece of kit than you might be used to using with other passive equalizers. I'm going to split this unit up into two different sections because they operate quite differently to each other. Starting with the low section over here, these two are both shelves, and the frequencies at which they operate are determined by this switch down here, which is labeled lower. When the switch is not pressed in, this is operating at 100 Hz, and this is operating at 330 Hz. When the switch is pressed in, this goes down to 80 Hz, and this is 150 Hz. What happens when you boost and cut with two shelves simultaneously at the same time? They start to interact with each other and make quite musical curves. The next thing I want to talk about is the dubby light down here. This lights up with low frequency information, so the harder you're hitting the unit, the brighter it will shine. Let's move on to the high section over here. Where this contrasts again to other passive equalizers is this isn't a shelf. In fact, this is a bell, and as you can see over here, there is a focus button as opposed to an attenuation button on other passive equalizers. So as you push this up, the bell gets sharper. Now, you'll notice there is a higher button over here. When it is not pressed in, this all operates at 3K. When it is pressed in, this unit operates at 12K. The next thing to talk about is the gain switch over here. The gain switch operates in half dB increments, and you can go from -6 all the way to +3 dB. So that makes doing quick ABs very easy, and I wish that more passive equalizers had this feature because you can add a lot of gain very quickly. Finally, we have our bypass button over here. When you bypass the unit, it is bypassed completely, and when you bring it back in, it is perfectly done, and you can hear little relays ticking away inside the box. On the rear of the Orca Bay, it all starts with our power transformer. Then we have our on and off switch. Then we have our IEC input over here, fuse selector between 115 and 230 volts. We have our input and our output XLRs. Next up, let's take a listen to how the unit sounds, and I'll see you at the end with my thoughts. Instrument of my loneliness. Wanted more, but you give me less. Leaning into your empty space. You need me when you're sober. Instrument of my loneliness. Wanted more, but you give me less. the Manultec Orca Bay equalizer. I've had this device for about 6 months. I remember the first time I got my hands on it. We were still in studio care, and the guys wanted to show me what it looked like inside. When a retailer tells you, you gotta see what's inside this thing, I was pretty excited to say the least. So my expectations were quite high, but at the same time I was thinking, well, look, I mean, I've heard a pair of real Pultecs. I think I'll probably end up saving and just getting a pair of those. However, when I plugged it in and when I set it up, a couple of things happened. The first is one of the people I work with a lot here walked in and immediately just looked at the rack and went, "What is that?" And I'll show you what I mean. Look at it. It's so beautiful. It's so simplistic. And the next thing that happened was anytime somebody walked in here, they just immediately had to touch it, and I was so excited for the fact that these are stepped, because when they did touch it I could at least recall it instantaneously, but listen to this, listen. It is so solid. When you look inside this thing, every one of those positions on that pot is like a solder, and it's like perfectly done. The inside is absolutely gorgeous. The power supply is stunningly done. My tech, who fixes all of my equipment, just said, dude, you gotta take a look at this because this is incredibly well done. There's a few details that show that people who have fixed a lot of equipment in their life have made this. The fact that this is CNC rounded, nothing is sharp here, nothing's gonna hurt you when you take the lid off. Everything is very accessible, which is great. Today, when I was bouncing out all of those different examples, I felt like I had done myself a bit of a disservice in the past by only having this on my master bus. Hearing what it did on those electric guitars and on the drums and specifically the vocals. When I first saw the specs of this device, I thought 3K on the high bell, that's low. I don't think I'd ever use 3K. But these inductors just sound so sweet and so smooth that you can do dramatic moves like that without incurring any eye-bleeding pain or any kind of uncomfort, which is pretty damn impressive if you ask me. I'm gonna have this not on my console insert anymore. I'm gonna have it on the patch that I can patch in and out of the insert, because having this on overheads or on vocals is kind of a big deal. One of the things, like I've said before, if you've seen my Pultec video, is a lot of people kind of think about these passive designs as purely a treble and a bass kind of thing. However, for me, it's more of a mid-range device, and on things like the vocals, when you can hear there's that boxiness, that kind of thickness that happens with all the backing vocals and everything, by tailoring the attenuation and the low end, all of a sudden it just neatens everything up. And on that digital example, the bottom end becomes tighter, it becomes more pronounced without it being boomy and excessive. And I thoroughly appreciate that about a box like this. It's not to say that there are a couple things that I would like to see added to the box, if at all possible. You see, these switches over here, which again, listen, they sound amazing, are filament bulbs inside. And while they look absolutely gorgeous, they're in a studio, which means they're going to get used a lot, and the box is going to be on for a really, really long time, which means that they're going to go out. And thankfully replacing them is really simple. You just have to pop the cap off the front of the button and you can get a new bulb and pop it in. But in my opinion, these should be LEDs. Now, I don't know if they can get the little dub light over here, the little sub light, to be LED. If they can, that would be fantastic, because I honestly believe that that's the only thing that's going to go wrong with this box. I can't imagine anything else to be fragile or, you know, fail at any point. We'll have to see, of course, because I bought it. 6 months in, I've only had to replace a couple of bulbs, and so far so good. It's been on every mix I've done for the last 6 months. And I'm really, really happy with the results that I've been getting with it. Thank you guys so very much for watching the video. If you have subscribed, thank you so very much for subscribing. It really makes a big difference to the channel. And, you know, I kind of want to do this a lot more in the future. Most importantly, I hope that you're all looking after yourselves and that you're being kind. I'll see you soon.